Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. We're going to call this our Easter special with the group T.L.C.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about them a bit. And my special guest on my left, the lovely Johanna Ciamps, and she is my guest sitting in with me in the cafe today. And you'll have to help me with this group here because I'm not as familiar with this group. I know who they are, but you know, with all the groups that are out, it's impossible to know all of them.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that this group came out around the time of New Edition.
Yeah,
And
They
what is
started
it?
in 1990.
Yeah, see, there were a lot of groups like this, but this particular group is one of the most successful female groups in history.
Yeah, I think we read about VH1 awarded them the...
Yeah, I've got some notes right here. We can talk about them too. I'm going to play a few chords here. Yes, you're on TV, and you can relax on the piano there. Your first song, that's called Where's My Little Doggone?
I love it.
So anyway, getting back to this group here, there were some groups that came out around that time. Britney Spears, I believe. I'm just gonna name
I
some
think
names.
they were after. Yeah,
Britney Spears,
was
and I think it
after
was the New
T.L.C.
Edition with Bobby Brown, and
Probably.
well, I'm not saying they came out around
Oh.
all at the time. I'm just naming groups that I think fit this genre here of
see.
people.
Okay.
There was New Edition, Bobby Brown, and there was Justin Timberlake, I believe, comes out in that era too. Doesn't he?
With Britney Spears.
Yeah, we're talking about when they were younger, not today, the way they are
Gotcha.
today. We're talking about when in their heyday, when they first emerged on the scene. And I assume they kind of all came out pretty much around this time.
Yeah, these guys were
Or give or take 10
prior,
years or whatever.
Yeah, these guys were prior, and honestly, that's kind of why they stand out to me. Is they are really unique. Like we
Yeah.
haven't seen a girls group like this before or after, you know, and they set a precedent, and
Yeah.
you know, I really admired them as soon as I heard their sound, and it's not stopped.
Is that how you got started with them?
I guess, yeah. I just heard them one day. I don't remember the moment, but I remember me and my best friend growing up, we would choreograph dances to them, and
Were you still in high school then?
oh gosh, we were in like grade school. We'd
Okay.
we'd walk over to the park, and
Yeah.
we'd come up with our little dance routines, and we'd slide
Oh,
down.
that's what little girls would do with groups here.
We'd like slide down the long staircase, like the railing, and just one day, actually, the Missoulian took a photo of us doing
Oh,
that.
excellent. Now let me see. Let me think of some more groups. I mentioned New Edition, Bobby Brown. Why did I say Brown? Bobby Brown, very young Bobby.
Crisscross would be In Vogue.
Yeah, In Vogue.
In
Yeah, I think they
Vogue.
would be in that genre. That
Sir
maybe-
Mix-a-Lot.
yeah. So the people watching this particular cafe, they get an idea. We're hitting more the younger,
Early 90s.
younger generation. Yeah, because usually it's like older people and yourself that appear on these shows. They're always talking about Sinatra or somebody like that.
Copy
See,
that. Okay.
but that's way before your time, so you probably won't know much about Little Blue Eyes.
Well, I was raised on the classics. I used to sit with my grandma.
Now, when we
and
say classics, are we talking classical music like Beethoven, or are you talking about the
all of
classics?
it, honestly, like I was raised with a ton of, classical music. I was also raised with a ton of classical movie references.
All right, let's see if you know this song here. You recognize it? I'll give you a hint. 16th century.
That's a good hint.
I'll stop right
Could you
there.
please keep going?
Okay.
I love it so much.
All right, I'll play that for you. That is called the Prelude in C by Johann Sebastian Bach.
Ooh, so
I'll do it all the way
nice.
through for you. If you doze off, that's fine.
Okay.
the entire song all the way through.
What
Prelude
a
and C.
gift.
Yeah, well, I didn't write it. It's just a song. I'm just repeating it.
But it's a gift to hear that. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Yeah, I've been doing this since I was 10 years old,
Really?
playing the piano. Yeah, and you know how this got started?
How?
Well, I come from a military family, and my father used to drink alcohol, and I don't endorse that. And when he would drink in the morning, he'd leave the house and come home with something brand new, like a toaster, sheets, bedroom sheets, curtains, whatever. Just he'd leave the house, he would just drink some vodka, right? And then he'd go and come home with something. And he used to just really irk my mom.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he had the money. It's not like we were, like, very poor then.
Yeah.
You get paid well in the military, especially if you do it for 20 years.
Wow.
And one day he was drinking a lot of vodka, and he left the house and came home with a brand new piano. That's a true story. That's how this whole thing started.
And then you started playing piano.
That's how it started.
awesome.
Well, I didn't actually take formal training until a year or two later because we were living in Virginia then, Langley Air Force Base in Hampton.
Mhm.
And then my father got stationed in Sacramento. So we took the piano. It was brand new. This wasn't
You
used.
hauled it across
Yeah, my dad had it hauled across.
the nation. Wow.
Well, yeah, it was a brand new piano. You're not going to leave it behind. so, so I was like 10 when that happened. And then by the time I was 12, I had formal training.
Wow.
Not only with the piano, but trumpet, too. I used to take trumpet lessons.
Do you ever?
Well,
bring
I
the
was a
trumpet?
kid. Well, I couldn't play it now. This was like so many years ago.
I
But
think
you know,
you could pick it up.
oh,
you-
nah. I've lost a lot of teeth over the years, first of all, so that'll ruin your. Yeah, like if you take clarinet lessons, so that'll ruin it.
Yeah. I bet with some practice it'd come back.
Oh gosh, it'd take probably a few months at this point, but
That's not
it doesn't
long.
matter because you know the piano is
like-
my main instrument
yeah.
anyway. But that's a true story. Yeah, my father came home after drinking some vodka, came home with a brand new piano, and my mom
Wow.
cried. What are we gonna do with this piano? You know how mothers are. Then she started dusting it off and taking care of it because it was in our home, and my mom was too poor to have it taken back.
Yeah.
I wrote about that story in my autobiography because I just find it so amusing.
You have an autobiography?
Yeah, I do. And I wrote about that story because it's very amusing. So,
What's the name of it?
Supermarket Pianist. It's available on Amazon.
Okay.
And it got a 5-star rating, too.
Okay.
It's also on sale at Fact and Fiction downtown. I mean, if you know, some people just want to go there and
Yeah.
just get it. So, anyway, that's the name of it. And it's not a very long book, so it doesn't talk about everything that's ever happened to me, just key things like how I got the piano. And that's the most unusual way to get a piano when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, Mom, can I take piano lessons? And, you know, the parents talk about it.
Yeah.
They go buy a piano. They get this little cheap piano. Okay, son, practice.
But
No,
yeah.
not yet. No, this was Specka brand new. So, anyway. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Now, you're from Missoula? Are you from Missoula?
Let's talk about T.L.C.
We'll get there. Okay. Is there anything you'd like the TV audience to know about you? Like any hobbies or
Oh.
interest or... And like, you went to the university here, didn't you?
I prefer to talk about T.L.C.
Okay, let's talk about TLC. According to this information here, oh, is this your favorite group? This
Oh,
Do you have a favorite
favorites
group?
are hard. I would say this was probably one of my top,
your top?
favorite groups growing up.
All right, according to this information here, it says TLC is an American girl group whose original line consisted of Tionne, I believe that's how that's pronounced, Tionne Watkins, and she called herself
Tionne.
T-Bows.
Yeah, Tionne Watkins.
Yeah, I'm gonna for the TV audience, look at their names first.
Okay.
And then there was Lisa Lopes, and so she was known as Left Eye, Lisa Left Eye Lopez.
Mhm.
And Rozonda Thomas, and I think that's pronounced Chilli.
Chilli.
Well, it's spelled different than the traditional Chilli. Chilli, the
I
meal.
think it went Chilli, yeah.
So
But
did they call it Chile or Chili?
Chilli.
Chili?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, some people spell their names different but pronounce it the same way, and this is spelled different than the traditional Chile.
Yeah.
So anyway, according to this information here, this group was formed in Atlanta, Georgia in 1990. And you're right. The group was very successful. They were successful during the 90s. And I assume were they still teenagers, you think, at this time? At this point in their life?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
if you
early
look
20s?
at, Lisa right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can see she's got the baby cheeks, you know.
Yeah.
She's young. I would say I would say they were probably, I don't know, I'm just guessing, maybe mid-teens almost.
Yeah, they're
Maybe
probably
late
teenagers.
teens.
Now, according to this information here, at that time, we're talking about at that time, 1990, or it doesn't have the exact year, it just says 1990s. But anyway, for the television audience, it says this group has sold over 65 million records worldwide. I assume that was then, at that time. Making them the best-selling American girl group, second worldwide.
I'm guessing between when they started and now, that's
Yeah.
how much they've sold. Yeah.
Yeah, according to this info here. So, and I didn't get a chance to really plan this episode like I normally would like to, because I don't know enough. I have to admit, I don't know enough about this group.
Maybe,
remember,
yeah, maybe you'll
I'm
go
almost
home and
60
you'll
years
start,
old. I mean, I'm not gonna know much
You'll
about.
start maybe to go home and listen, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with some of their songs, like the song "Creep," and the only reason why I know that song is because there was a detective show, and I can't remember what. Well, the Creep song was played on this detective show of the past.
Okay.
I want to say NYPD Blue, or it was one of those early drama shows way before Law and Order came out. We're talking way before
A
Law
long
and
time
Order.
ago.
Yeah. So this just gives you an idea. But that's not bad, those 65 million records worldwide, making them the best. It says the best American girl group. Now you know there were some girl groups in the past, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I would say other than probably T.L.C, you know, you'd have to go back to like the Supremes and Motown.
Yes, I was going to
like,
do that. Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, here's one of their songs. See if you know it. You know it?
I was expecting you to play Stop in the Name
Well,
of Love
I could have, I suppose.
before you break my heart. Go over. Get over.
I don't know. That's all I know on that song there. But let's talk about female groups of the past. Way before the Supremes, there was a group called the Andrews Sisters. Have you ever heard of them?
I have. I'm trying to place a song.
They had a song called "Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree." It went something like this. Recognize it?
Yeah. That's like a classic. Very classic old song.
Yeah, "Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree," and that was probably around 1940.
Do we know why we're not supposed to sit under the apple tree?
No. You know, I guess
gonna have
if you
to go
want to
back to
analyze
those
lyrics,
lyrics.
if you want to analyze lyrics,
I do.
all right, let's see. "Don't sit on the apple tree." Maybe you'll get bopped in the head by an apple that falls off. I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1940.
I know. I wonder what it was a metaphor for.
Maybe not, because, you know, you have to remember that was a different time period. So their songs, as far as lyrically, they weren't necessarily lyrics that pertain to life. Like in our modern time, they were just more fun, silly lyrics.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Andrews Sisters were very popular in the 40s. They did a movie called, see if I can remember it, Private Buckaroo. You probably never heard of it. It was way before your time. This was one of those World War II comedy pictures. And they were in their heyday then, so they did a lot of those popular songs of the era. Like, let's see if I can remember some of the titles. The theme song, Private Buckaroo. And I mentioned "Don't Sit on the Apple Tree." Oh gosh, there's one song, it went something like this. Six Jerks in a Jeep. That's the name of it. Six Jerks in a Jeep.
6 jerks in a Jeep.
Yeah, that was one of their hits.
That's kind of like these guys.
But it wasn't the bad.
These guys in Scrub, you know, like.
Yeah. And they just did a lot of stuff like that. So, and then there was another group in that era called the Lennon Sisters. They used to sing with Lawrence Welk. Of course, you probably won't know Lawrence Welk.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the
Well,
Lennon
when someone's
Sisters.
that good, they transcend time, right?
Well, yeah, but even as the generations go by, they start being forgotten.
I feel like that's more, and tell me what your experience is, but
Okay.
in my experience, I feel like that's happening more now because
Yeah.
everything has gone digital, and so you hear something maybe on Spotify or you see something on YouTube,
Uh-huh.
but you don't have a reference of that first time you bought their album or the album that your parents used to listen to.
Well, when I was in high school, they didn't have all the technology. Like, there were no computers or iPads and things like that, or YouTube at that time. So if you wanted a record, you had to get a round record at that time. And then they had what was called 8-track tapes. There was like these big square tapes that went into the front of your car, but you couldn't like rewind it or back it up. Like after you heard a song, you had to wait a whole hour for to hear the song again.
An hour?
Yeah, because all the other songs on the it was a big square like cassette tape is the way to describe it. And it actually went into the front of your car, and it had like these tracks inside the tape, and you had to literally wait about an hour because they didn't have the technology then. And it was called
Could you fast forward or rewind?
you couldn't rewind, but you could fast forward. That's it. It was pretty primitive.
Yeah.
And then they had tape recorders, with these cassettes that they were very popular then. They're probably not now because we've got YouTube and all this. But you talk about then. So it gives you an idea. It was very, very primitive.
Wow.
And then they had VHS, the original VHS, not the kind that you slip in the front and do all the fancy stuff, but it was the kind that went on the top. It had a drawer that popped up like this, and you put your tape in and push it down, but you had to wait like a long time to.
Wow.
But technology has changed since those days.
Indeed.
And even with telephones, they had these rotary dial, they called it, where it had like all 9 numbers, and you had to kind of thing. It took a
Yeah.
while to dial a number, so that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Then technology came out, everything changed.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they even have television now with YouTube. Think about it. I mean, you can see anything on YouTube. I mean, I get ideas from this show, like what we're on now.
Yeah. It's going to be wild to see where we're headed. What's next?
Well, if I'm still alive 20 years from now, I'd be very curious to see what technology does.
I know.
I'm gonna be 80 years old in 20 years, so I'll be like on my way out, and
I don't know.
there'll be some young group
I
come
would
up there.
not. I would not take you to V60. So.
Well, I don't turn 60 till October, so I'm rounding off. I'm 59 now.
It's very rare that someone says that they're older than they are.
Well, you might as well say it. Gosh, I mean,
You're
I'm gonna
preparing
turn it-
yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it this year anyway. But anyway, getting back to those female groups, there was the Andrew Sisters. They were the most popular of that era. They did a lot of movies. Like if you go on YouTube, you can probably see their movies and so on. The Andrew Sisters. And what was interesting about this group, and they were sisters in real life, obviously, but they just had the tightest vocal harmony of any female group in history. I think they still have that title to this day, and I think even these people here, if you were to talk to them, they would tell you the same thing. They came out in the 40s, and I think the McGuire Sisters came out in the 50s with Lawrence Welk, and then the Supremes came out in the 60s. And of course, they were kind of that trio harmony, but not to the degree like the Andrews Sisters, because their music was, not only their music, but music in general was changing, evolving. So that kind of gives you an idea. And let's see, there were other groups, Martha and the Vandellas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with them. And, oh gosh, the list goes on. But as far as modern times, I would say that this group here is probably the most known, the most popular of modern era female groups. And also, let's see, according to this
In this
here,
genre, yeah.
Yeah,
I
for-
would say probably other ones would include like Dixie Chicks. Or
yeah,
probably-
and the Spice Girls and
Yeah, which,
stuff.
I mean, I don't want to offend audiences, but the other thing is that stood out to me about TLC is they weren't they weren't a manufactured
Yeah.
group. You know, they were truly good friends. In fact, when Lisa Lopes, when she passed away, they chose not to replace her
Yeah, there's
because
nothing
they
wrong
had
with that.
an actual relationship together that
Right.
you know organically grew into what they became, and then when she passed, they felt they couldn't replace her.
And that makes sense too, because some groups have a unique sound, and when one of them passes or retires or whatever, it's not the same. They may
Yeah,
carry
well,
the name
and-
on, but it's just not the same. So I
Yeah,
can
and the
understand
business
that.
structure of it, if you're a manufactured group like the Spice Girls or some of the boy bands,
Mhm.
there's, you know, contracts that require replacing things. And so what I really admire about this group is how genuine they were, you know, and how it was an organic process for their
Mhm.
friendship and their natural talents and abilities to evolve to their reaching that type of success. And
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting because it's only that much harder for a female, let
Yeah.
alone a group of females, to rise to that level
Well, I
within
think that
any
in this
industry.
male-dominated culture, that's probably why it was so hard for them. You know, a half hour's already gone by.
Oh, look at us.
Yes,
Go
see, I told
us.
you this is going to go by real quickly once you start. Now, anyway, let's finish this up here, according to this information here. Billboard magazine ranked them as one of the greatest musical trios, as we talked about, as well as the 7th most successful act in the 90s. And their accolades include 4 career Grammy Awards, not bad for that young, 5 MTV Video Music Awards, 5 Soul Train Music Awards. Soul Train was the show of the past. I don't know if you know the
I
show.
do. I love- Yes,
You
I
familiar with
love
Soul
Soul-
Train?
yes.
Are you familiar with the American Bandstand?
Yes.
Okay, well, the creator of Soul Train, he didn't want it to be an African American bandstand, but unfortunately, it turned out
became that.
It became that. There was no getting around that. So
Well, and that goes down to, I feel like, branding and marketing. Like, there's always the vision, and then somehow between, you know, I think we're getting into an era because the technology is what it is. People
Mhm.
can be more authentic from start of product to the end. But in the past, you had all this huge team
Right.
that, you know, even if you had a really authentic vision, you might have to, your marketing department might tell you have to package yourself a certain way that was completely inauthentic to what you really started out with. So
yeah, and I think that's always been like that. Oh, so
hopefully that will change.
yeah, and I don't have control over it, so I'm not, you know, like it is what it is. I'm just a piano, so.
Yeah.
And anyway, finishing this up, like I mentioned, the 5 Soul Train Music Awards, and then it says 20 years after their debut. I assume this picture was when they first emerged on the scene. This group was honored with the Outstanding Contribution to Music at the 17th MOBO, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's spelled MOBO Awards, and the Legend Awards at the 2013 MTV Video Music Awards in Japan. Which makes sense, because these young groups, you know, they're flying all around the world and doing their thing because they're young. There's stuff like that. So that's kind of the info here. The rest of this here is just talks about their songs and, you know, repetitive stuff that I already mentioned. So the main.
So what's your favorite TLC song?
Well, I don't know if I have a favorite TLC song, but, you know, because I'm from a different generation. But if I had to pick one of their songs, since I know it, I would probably pick the Creep song. It had something like, it went something like this.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah, nicely done.
But I wouldn't be able to, like, the thing with this kind of music here, a lot of this kind of music is rhythmic. What I mean is there's not a distinctive melody, so there'd be no way to repeat it. I would only be able to do that first part there, because it's kind of like rapping.
I see.
So there's not like musical tones that you can listen to repeat it. But the beginning part, I can at least do that part. Something like that. But as far as their words, there's no way to repeat that.
Do you know the song "What About Your Friends"? That's my personal favorite. And
I don't think I'd be able to repeat that on the piano. It's like what we're talking about.
All right, go search
if it's
that one
more
up.
rhythmic or rapping or storytelling, there's no way to repeat it.
Yeah.
Here, see if you know this song. You close.
I know this one.
I'll just keep playing so you can figure it out. This is a piano classical version of this song. And the conclusion. Painted Black is the name of that song.
By Pink Floyd.
The Stones.
Ah!
Close.
I could hear da 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 and da to turn to black.
But see where I'm going with that is, you know how it has that melody, that distinctive melody? That's the only reason why I can play that song. And I just add all those little embellishing notes on it. That's my version of that song.
Gotcha.
But getting back to their song, it's so rhythmic like rap with the rhythm is in the background, so there's no way to repeat it. That's just something that only they can do. If that makes any sense.
It does, yeah.
So that's the only thing, like any of Britney Spears' music, there's no way you can repeat that on a piano or guitar or anything like that. Not that I can see. But if it has a distinctive melody, then yeah, you can do your versions of those songs. So that song's the only song by that group I can play, the Stones.
What's your favorite genre of music to play on the piano?
Well, I like classical music because I'm a pianist. But see, the problem with classical music is I've played in hotels and stuff throughout my career, and nobody comes up and says, hey, I want to hear Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata or, Clair de Lune by Debussy. They want to hear, hey, could you play Moon River or Night and Day or some song like that, so.
And you really want to play classical music.
Yeah, but if you want to make a living, you better do what people want to hear.
Yeah.
So that's why I took the time. Well, I had a pretty good music teacher too. Taught me how to take any any popular song and make it sound like classical, like that Painted Black.
Interesting.
You'll never hear anybody play Painted Black quite like that, I don't think. Everybody has their style.
Sure.
And what's interesting is when I took these lessons, it was something different, because normally, like, and you've seen it on TV, a piano bar setting will be something like this. Something like, pretty plain. Now, what if you took that same song and went something like this? Isn't that better, see? Isn't that a little bit just more, to work with? Stuff
You're
like that.
adding more texture, more.
Yeah, it's just, and there's nothing wrong with the traditional way, because some piano bars, that's the way they want it. They just want it straight, plain, just background music. But whether you add tricks or whatever, that's what they normally play on cruise ships or hotels. They want to hear the stuff. So you got to get your repertoire happening, or you might get sent home. But anyway. So what I do is, like, I'll throw in an occasional classical piece, and people have fun. Let's see if you know this one.
Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick, but.
You recognize it? we'll stop right there. But that gives you an idea. That was Claire de Lune. Debussy's Claire de Lune, the intro part, the beginning of it. But see, the point that I'm making is that on cruise ships and stuff, people want to hear Nat King Cole. I don't know if you would know him. Nat King Cole, or Sinatra, or Perry Como, or Elton John, you know, those kind of people. I'll do some Elton John for you.
You know, I gotta say, if you're gonna listen to piano, it's good to just curl up with the piano.
That's
because
fine. If you want to curl up, you'll be the first guest that's ever, well, you're the first guest that's ever done that, so go for it.
You can feel the vibrations of the piano, and it gives you just an added, you know,
Well, if that's what you want to do. If you want to lean,
it's
go ahead.
awesome.
I'll play your song for you.
Okay.
You know that song, don't you, Elton
Which
John?
one?
Your song, Elton John?
Oh, I thought you meant my song.
That's the name of the song.
I
My
know,
Song.
but at first I thought you meant like, I'm like,
My
wait, what's
song
my
by,
song?
Not you, okay, not her personal song. Elton John's now you got me confused.
Sorry.
Never mind. I'll play it for you.
I had an opportunity to see Elton John. That was amazing.
Did you get to see him?
Yeah,
When did you see him?
when he came to Missoula.
Oh, yeah, I heard he did a encore concert and came back twice. I heard about that.
Yeah, it was pretty fortunate.
Let me play that for you. Now you got to remember, I'm not playing on a concert grand piano. It makes a big difference.
Oh,
This is an
gosh.
electronic, just electronic piano. And the problem with those electronic pianos, it's monotone. Do you know what I mean? You can't do this as far as expressing quiet and it's just all monotone.
Mhm.
But on a concert grand you can, so that would sound much, much prettier.
Oh, yeah.
But see, the point is, people would prefer to hear something like that on a cruise ship or hotel or wedding reception, those kind of things.
Hmm.
Sorry, classics, but that's the way it
Yeah.
is.
It'd
But
be,
it-
it'd be
okay.
curious to try to reinvent something, like.
Well, nothing's new, right, if you think about it. What's old is new, what's new is old, the old saying. I think the most modern, modern performer to do a so-called classical piece was Paul McCartney.
Hmm.
But other than that classics goes like hundreds of years back.
Which is interesting because as I was listening to the chord progressions and as you were playing the Elton John, your song,
Mm-hmm.
it was so inspired by classical music, by the sound of it.
Well, yeah, I think so. But you got to remember, the way I'm playing it, that was the way I was taught.
Sure.
Somebody else playing that will do it totally different, and that's the fun thing about it.
Mhm.
There's no definitive way of playing popular music. Now, there is a definitive way to do classical.
Mm.
No matter who you are, that's the way it was written. Like, if I do the intro to the Moonlight Sonata, you can't fake your way on that. You have to do it just the way it was written, see? I won't do the whole thing because it'll take too long. This is a long song. I don't sit here all next 20 minutes, however long this song is. See, you have to, that's the way it was in that era. There was no popular music back in those days as we know it. Beautiful song though. You might put your audience to sleep with it on a cruise ship though.
No, it's
you
like
know?
a lullaby. I hate to say it, but okay. Chilli and T-Boz look really unimpressed, while Left Eye, I think, likes Moonlight Sonata.
Maybe they do.
Yeah, these guys need you to play it a little bit more. I don't know what they're looking for.
Well, we'll find in a moment.
I think they just want a
I'm gonna
root.
stop right
I think
there.
they just want a root beer float. I'll make
Yeah.
sure to offer it to them.
But see, well, that song would take too long to play all the way through. But that, well, at least you can say Asaph played Moonlight's not a first part of it anyway. But you're right. They probably, just like what you're saying, the audience wants more lively stuff, like
I
something
don't
like
know. I mean, I think
you know this song.
yeah.
It's called the Tango.
It makes me want to dance with your candlestick holder.
Go for it. Dance with the candlestick. Hey, it's improv TV.
I mean, I don't know. Is this like just for your piano?
No.
I feel like
here.
I could
Go ahead.
definitely
Just,
do a tango with
all right, let's do. If you want to dance to the tango, I'll play that. You can
All
get
right.
right in front of that camera there.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Go ahead. You don't want to cut yourself off. Here we go. I'll do it again.
Actually, I want the candlestick holder to bend me back.
There you go. Well, you're the first person to ever dance with the candelabra. You're probably the only first person to ever dance with a candelabra.
Definitely
So
not. No,
that'll be a first.
that's something that's been done through the ages, guaranteed.
We'll see if you know this song here.
Yes, is this The Young and the Restless?
Yes, it is.
I kind of went through a phase, should I say?
Well, I don't want to upset you. I can play something else.
No, you're not upsetting me at all.
I was watching
Fond
the show on
memories.
TV just the other day. I don't normally watch it every day. Do you know its real name?
No.
It's called Nadia's Theme. That's the name of the song. They use it on The Young and the Restless these days.
This songwriter
called
made
Nadia's
so
Theme.
much money, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Do you know the history of this song, how it came about? I'll tell you. Let me just finish it for you. I'm almost done.
The haunting tones right here is like, you imagine. That's when, oh. This is the happy part when everybody gets married and like babies are born and
Yeah.
deer are prancing through the meadow. Just wait though.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, it ends on that note. Okay.
Ends on that note.
I was waiting for like.
No, that's how it ends.
Okay.
And they end it like that on the TV. They just have an orchestra version, but it's the same thing. It ends on that note. Anyway, the name of that song is called Nadia's Theme. The reason that song is in existence is because in 1976 there was a young Russian gymnast. I think she was like 12 or 13 at the time. Her name was Nadia Comaneci. She was the first person to ever score a perfect 10 in the Olympics. Ever. Every event she did, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, the whole Olympics. She's the first person in history to ever do that. And because of that achievement in her life at the time, that song came into existence.
Wow.
You know, Nadia Comaneci, they called it Nadia's Theme.
Wow.
And then eventually, as she retired from the games, you know, you only last like a couple years or whatever, for your body changes, you can't flip and tumble anymore. But then they attached it onto the Young and the Restless.
Amazing.
So a lot of people think, oh, that's the theme to the Young and the Restless, which it is, but it's really called Nadia's Theme. I just thought I'd throw a little trivia
That's
history.
really fascinating. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, it was amazing to see this young gymnast at that time. I mean, she got on that uneven bar, you know, what do you call the parallel bar and everything. She was bending and flipping and not making no mistakes. She didn't stumble or anything. She didn't like, oops.
Amazing.
It was. They every once in a while they might like on a documentary, if they talk about her, they'll go back in time and show her.
That was probably before performance-enhancing drugs, too.
Probably. This was back in '76 or maybe
So
even before
even more
that.
impressive.
Yeah. Well, back in those days, they did things right. You know, I'm not a gymnast or anything, so I don't want to pick on anybody. But
Some things.
well, as far as that, yeah, it was done. There was
Yeah.
no cheating back in those days. But she was only a kid, real skinny, lanky kid. You know,
Yeah.
probably about 5'1", 5'2". They're all like short, you know,
Yeah.
short in stature when they're that young. But no, she pulled off a very impressive Olympic standing. I mean, she didn't even get a 9.5. Everything she did, that whole thing was 10. I mean, the flipping on the mat and the high bar and just whatever she was doing, it was all three of them judged like 10, 10, 10, 10, all through there. She scored straight 10s all through there.
I wonder whatever happened to her.
Well, she probably went on to get married, and because she's probably from the Ukraine, I would guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, that was what, 30, 40 years ago? She's probably a grandma now. Who knows? I don't know. But it's just amazing. Time goes by real fast.
That should be another theme of your show. You should do her as well.
Yeah, maybe do a news story on her.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. That mightn't be a bad idea. I had to dig up info and photos and videos and see what's available.
Yeah.
It depends on what's available. And you know, we got less than 10 minutes to go.
Oh.
The show's almost over.
Oh, wow.
I told you it was going to go by very quickly.
I didn't even know how long we were going to... You probably told me, but
We've been here
wasn't
almost an
listening.
hour.
Oh, wow.
Time just flies when you're doing this because you're focused on this, and I try to make each guest feel comfortable and whatever. So
You're
I
a
was
really
trying
good
to do,
host.
I was trying to do what I think you would be comfortable with or like or whatever. I mean,
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. It's been a great experience.
yeah, we're almost out of time. We got a few more minutes left. But anyway, I'm glad you chose T.L.C. It's good for me. I might as well get a little bit current, somewhat current.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I assume that this group is at least 20 years old, according to these notes here. If they came out in 1990-ish, and it's 2018, do you think they're still performing today in 2018?
So they had their last tour,
Well, this says
2016
2013. Oh,
to 2017.
Oh, they did? Oh, yeah, right here. Here it says their final album release was in 2017, almost a year ago. June 30th, 2017, according to these notes here. And it says right here, they will not split up following the album's release. They'll continue to perform, but it'll probably be, and that was over a year ago, almost a year ago at that time.
I've never seen them perform live. I think I should probably make that a priority. If I ever hear about a tour, I should just,
Yeah, I think if you're ever going to see these ladies, and I assume they're 15 to 20 years older now. They don't probably look like this anymore.
Well, and it's hard because they lost one of their members.
Yeah, but I mean physically,
Oh, okay.
When you're in your heyday, that's only for a season, as you know. You look at groups like, we lost Prince, And what was the time? Morris Day, I think was his name. If you've seen them now, they're like middle-aged guys, and it's not quite the same as when they were like 20 or whatever. And I'm not saying they can't sing. I'm just talking about the physicality. The MC Hammers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think Hammer's doing Hammer time much anymore.
It's funny because I wish, I wish it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, but we don't have control over the aging process,
Well, I mean,
unfortunately.
Okay, let me clarify. I wish that, because I think the spirit just kind of is pretty ageless, so.
Well, the inner person, yeah, but we live in these bodies that unfortunately age.
Because, Mick Jagger, when the Rolling Stones came to Missoula, I mean, he was strutting along on that catwalk. I mean, some of these.
But you don't know what he was doing behind stage. He could have had some Geritol back there.
There you go.
So, soaking his feet for like.
I mean, hopefully,
a minute.
let's hope. I'm gonna until we hear otherwise. I'm gonna hope that maybe there's people out there that are able to just power on because
maybe so.
Their passions just get them so there.
Well, Elton John is calling it quits. Did you hear
he?
about that? That was on the world news. He said it's time.
Wow.
He's been doing it, 40 years, something like that.
Wow.
So that's what we're talking about. And also Neil Diamond, I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
Sweet Caroline, all those.
Yeah.
He's calling it quits too.
Wow.
So, and that was on the world news. They mentioned both of these performers on the world news, telling them it's time.
It's done.
After 40, 50 years of it, it's time. Now, Mick Jagger might be an exception to the rule, but
You know who else is really impressive is Barbra Streisand as a female artist.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, some people can go on, and I think it depends on how you take care of your voice.
Absolutely. She was also sharing in her Netflix show about her manager. She's been with him for so long that she just really lucked out because the manager she got at a really young age was able to negotiate a contract with her that allowed for her to have such control artistically.
Yeah, see, those are factors too. And taking care of your voice, like a lot of these young groups, they're screaming and hollering, and it sounds cool when they're like 20.
Yeah.
They get like 40 or 50, they get the hoarse sound, the raspy sound, and they lose their audience, or they have to sing a lower pitch key or something.
Curious, yeah.
But Barbra Streisand, I think she's an exception to the rule. And she's probably taking care of her voice. I think singers have to drink like lemonade or something.
I'm sick right now, and that's what I'm doing. So I
yeah,
probably
they're
should
drinking
do that
tea
at
or
all
whatever.
times.
There's something that singers are supposed to drink to preserve their voices as long as possible.
Lemon water, I think
At least
you're right.
opera singers anyway. So, yeah, but everybody's different. The aging process affects people differently. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But Barbra Streisand is a very amazing lady. You know who got her started?
Who?
Liberace,
What?
the famous pianist. He's the one that discovered her.
Really?
Yeah, when she was like really young. Liberace once had the #1 show in the world
I didn't
for
know
a pianist.
that.
That's pretty amazing. And he
Wow.
put her on one of his shows.
Wow.
Well, she might have been, I don't know, a teenager. I mean, I don't know. We're going way back.
Huh.
But she had a voice then.
It's almost like the previous show to The Voice, which would have been Liberace.
Well, Liberace's, he had 2 television shows throughout his career. The first one came out in 1952. It was a black and white Liberace show. It was the #1 show in the world, beating I Love Lucy. It was that popular.
Wow.
And I think he just came up at a time when you didn't see a classical pianist on television. Because television was new in the 50s anyway. He just happened to be there. And so, of course, if you're on TV in 1952, everybody in the whole country and world is going to see you. His second show came out in 1969, and I think that was the show where Barbra Streisand, a very young Streisand, might have been on.
Do you happen to know on YouTube if there's a lot of classical pianists that, have a channel?
I don't know. I can find out. I can only assume or guess. I don't know.
The reason why I ask is that would probably be the modern day equivalent to Liberace having a classical pianist show, and so if
Well, you got to remember that was new in 1952 too. Television came out around the 50s anyway. That's the history of TV. Prior to that, they had what was called movie stars. They, you had to go to the theater to see your favorite star of that time, like the
crazy
Wizard of
to
Oz or
think
whatever.
about. Yeah.
And when television came out, and it was very crude and primitive. They had these big rabbit ears and square box that just looked like a refrigerator. They had to get like really close. It was black and white and grainy, but it was new. And they were reaching more people that didn't go to the movies.
Huh.
And there was controversy then because the movie executives didn't want their stars to go on TV. They were telling the movie stars, don't go on TV. Who wants to go on TV? But there were a few movie stars that were smart enough to get in on that at the beginning. You know, comedians like Milton Berle, I don't know if you ever heard of him, or Sid Caesar, comedians. Mm-hmm. And they were doing their clean comedy. That's the way it was then. And even though it was grainy on the screen, they got more exposed. Whoever the movie stars were that were smart enough to get on the early TV, like Liberace, for example, they were the ones that names got catapulted everywhere. And so the question was, well, why should we pay to go to the movie theater? We can just look at them at home. So that was their mild controversy there.
Interesting.
Not like Entertainment Tonight, you know, or something there. But that's a little history there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those people, the handful of people that got into television, that was smart, very smart. Bob Hope and all those kind of people. You probably don't know them, but they were all comedians and so on. And that's why Liberace had the #1 show, because he's the only one doing it at the time.
Yeah, and now with the decentralization.
Oh gosh, you get on TV now, like even this cafe, you're like a dime a dozen.
That'll be. I mean, in some ways, the coolest part has been it's democratized it,
Yeah.
but then.
But it was new then, so.
Yeah, but then also, how do people filter through all of the content that's coming out?
I have
these
no
days?
idea. I don't know anything about that. I'm sure they have a way of figuring it out.
Yeah,
Stuff
whoever
like that.
figures that out is gonna be.
Probably the next Mark Zuckerberg or something like that.
Yeah.
The next zillionaire or something like that, I guess. Well, young lady, we're out of time. Do you have any final words you want to say?
Oh gosh.
Well, while you're trying to think, let me make some acknowledgments here. This is Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, and through the magic of green screen technology, each week we put ourselves on a different backdrop. And today, with our special guest, Johanna Ciamps, we put ourselves on the set of T.L.C. T.L.C.
I think I just say, go have fun, go dance, go listen to music.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks for sitting in the cafe. I told you this would be fun.
It is,
And you're
yeah.
going to get a DVD in about 2 minutes from now and take it home and do whatever you want to do with it. I'm going to put it on Facebook and YouTube too. And I'll give you the info.
Thank you for doing what you do. Keep playing music.
Well, I'll try.
I'll just cuddle up to the piano each time. I love it.
All right, well, let me do one last final tune for you as we're signing off. So until our next show, Maranatha.
Maranatha?
Yes,
what does that mean?
That's a Hebrew greeting that refers to the second coming of Christ, and it's also a greeting. And at the end of every show, I say Maranatha.
Oh, okay.
To the audience. Okay, let me think of one last final song I can play for you. Anything in particular you'd like to hear?
Oh, jeez. No, just whatever comes to you.
All right, let me think. I'll just do my ending here. That's usually what I do. I stop on that chord at the end of every show. Well, make yourself at home and wait till I shut everything down, and you can just see yourself on TV there, and I'll go make you a coffee. Thanks for sitting in with me today.
It's my pleasure.